The cold woke Daniel Pierce first. Then came the pain, sharp and biting across his ribs. He opened his eyes to darkness and the smell of metal and chemicals. His hands felt heavy, bound by something hard and smooth. Not rope or handcuffs, but something else. Something alien. Memory came back in flashes. His ship, the Wanderer. A routine cargo run to Proxima Centauri. Then the alarms. The massive shadow that blocked the stars. Beam boarded. Fighting. Then nothing. A harsh light suddenly flooded the room. Daniel squinted, his eyes burning after hours or maybe days in darkness. As his vision cleared, he saw the walls of his cell. Smooth metal, no seams, no way out, and standing at what must be the doorway was his captor. The alien stood 7 feet tall. Its body looked like a praying mantis with green-brown skin that seemed both hard like armor and somehow flexible. Its 4 arms ended in claws, and its head featured large compound eyes that reflected Daniel's own image back at him. Human. The alien spoke, its voice coming through what must be a translator device on its chest. "You are awake." "Good." Daniel tried to stand but found his legs weak. He steadied himself against the wall. "Who are you? What do you want?" "I am Commander Zexcroll of the Khazari Empire. You are prisoner number 437 aboard the warship Dominance." The alien's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "And you will help us understand your kind." Daniel measured his breathing, trying to stay calm. "How long have I been here?" "By your Earth time, 3 months." The news hit him like a punch. 3 months? Had anyone even noticed he was missing yet? "You are stronger than the others," Zexcroll continued. "Most humans break after our first round of questioning. You resisted." Daniel remembered now. The pain. The questions about Earth's defenses, military bases, ship deployments. He had given them nothing. 2 smaller Khazari entered the cell. They grabbed Daniel with their clawed hands and pulled him to his feet. His muscles screamed in protest. "Today we begin again," Zexcroll said. "Your species is a threat to our expansion. We must understand you before we remove you." They dragged Daniel down a long corridor lined with similar cells. Through the transparent barriers, he saw other humans. Some looked back with empty eyes. Others turned away, too broken to show interest. Daniel counted 12 prisoners as they passed. They entered a large chamber filled with equipment he didn't recognize. In the center sat a chair with restraints. The smaller Khazari forced him into it and secured his arms and legs. Zexcroll approached with a device that looked like a metal spider. "Your military training makes you valuable, Captain Pierce. Your mind holds secrets that will help us defeat your planet." "How do you know my rank?" Daniel asked, trying to buy time to think. "We have studied your identification, your ship's logs. We know you served in Earth's special forces before becoming a free pilot. We know of your combat experience, your tactical knowledge." Zexcroll moved closer. "And now you will share it with us." The spider-like device lowered toward Daniel's head. He struggled against the restraints. "Your resistance is pointless," Zexcroll said. "No human has escaped the Dominance. No one knows you are here. Earth does not even know we exist yet." Daniel stopped struggling. He needed to save his strength, to watch and wait. The device touched his temples, and pain shot through his skull. "Tell me about Earth's orbital defenses," Zexcroll demanded. Daniel bit down on his lip until he tasted blood. He would not break. Not today. As the pain increased, one thought kept him conscious. He had now seen the ship. He had seen his captors. He knew there were other human prisoners. And Daniel Pierce knew that somehow, someday, he would escape. And when he did, these aliens would pay for what they had done. The interrogation continued for hours. But Daniel gave them nothing but his silence and his hate. Days blended together for Daniel. After each interrogation, the Khazari would return him to his cell to recover just enough before the next session. He kept track of time by counting meals. 23 meals had come since he first awoke on the ship. Today was different. Instead of the usual 2 guards, 4 Khazari soldiers came to his cell. They attached a different set of restraints to his wrists and ankles. "Move, human," the lead guard ordered. "The science division requires you." They led him down corridors he hadn't seen before. The ship was massive, larger than any human vessel he'd ever known. Other aliens, not just Khazari, worked at stations they passed. Some looked at Daniel with curiosity, others with disgust. The guards stopped at a large door marked with symbols Daniel couldn't read. Inside was a laboratory filled with strange equipment. Tables held samples of what looked like human tissue, blood, and bones. "This is the new specimen." A Khazari in lighter-colored armor approached. Its movements were more precise, less military than the others. "Yes, Dr. Vexmar," the guard replied. "Commander Zexkrol ordered this one for special testing." The doctor examined Daniel closely. "Secure him to the transport. We're moving him to Sector 7 for the neural mapping." They strapped Daniel to a floating platform. As they prepared to move him, the ship suddenly shuddered. Lights flickered and alarms blared. "System diagnostic," one guard explained. "The engines will be offline for 30 minutes. Proceed anyway," the doctor ordered. "We will use the emergency tubes." They pushed Daniel's platform into a narrow passage. The air felt different here, thinner. They passed other cells, most empty. But in one, Daniel saw something that made his heart race. Another human. A woman with short brown hair and fierce eyes watched him pass. When the guards weren't looking, she raised her hand in a subtle gesture. Daniel blinked twice to acknowledge her. At Sector 7, the doctor was called away for an emergency. The guards secured Daniel in a waiting area and moved to the corner, speaking in their clicking language without the translators. "Test." Daniel turned his head slightly. In the cell across from him, the woman from earlier was now visible through a small window. "Can you hear me?" she whispered. "Yes," Daniel replied softly. "I'm Dr. Olivia Grant, xenobiologist from the research vessel Edison. Been here 5 months. Captain Daniel Pierce, freight pilot, 3 months." "Listen carefully," Olivia said. "I've been studying them. The Khazari have a fatal weakness. Their neural system is sensitive to certain sound frequencies." Daniel kept his face neutral, aware the guards might be watching. "How do you know?" "I was brought here to help them understand human biology. But I learned about theirs instead." She spoke quickly, eyes darting to check the guards' positions. "They're planning an attack on our colonies. 7 warships, including this one, led by High Admiral Vornthal." "When?" "Soon. They gathered enough data from prisoners. We're just test subjects now." A guard looked their way. Daniel and Olivia fell silent until they turned away again. "The sound frequency," Daniel whispered. "What is it?" "Between 172 and 175 hertz. Disrupts their nervous system. Could incapacitate them long enough to." The door slid open. The doctor returned. "Got it," Daniel murmured quickly. "Find me if you get free," Olivia said. "Cell block E17. The guards returned to Daniel's platform and began pushing him into the laboratory. He memorized the route they had taken and every detail of the ship he could see. Inside the lab, the doctor prepared a device similar to the one Zexkrol had used, but larger. "This will extract your memories directly," the doctor explained. "The process is usually fatal to your species, but the data is valuable." As they positioned the machine over his head, Daniel focused on what Olivia had told him. A weakness, a fleet of 7 ships, an imminent attack. He had to escape now, not just for himself, but for Earth. The machine hummed to life above him, but Daniel was already planning. Sound frequency between 172 and 175 hertz. Cell block E17. The system diagnostic creating temporary vulnerabilities in the ship. For the first time since his capture, Daniel felt something new replace his despair. Hope. The neural mapping machine hovered just inches from Daniel's face. He had seconds to act before they began the fatal procedure. The ship's diagnostic had left certain systems vulnerable. It was now or never. Daniel strained against his restraints, testing their strength. The material was tough but flexible. The doctor turned away to adjust settings on a control panel. The two guards stood nearby, their attention divided between Daniel and the flashing alerts on the wall panels. Using all his strength, Daniel twisted his right wrist at an unnatural angle. Pain shot up his arm, but the restraint gave slightly. The Special Forces training he had received years ago included techniques for escaping captivity. He dislocated his thumb with a sharp, practiced movement, biting down on his lip to keep from crying out. His hand slipped free. In one fluid motion, Daniel grabbed a sharp metal tool from the tray beside him. The doctor turned, mandibles clicking in alarm. Daniel drove the tool into the nearest access panel on the wall. Sparks flew as the circuitry shorted out. The lights in the lab went dark. Emergency red lighting kicked in seconds later, but by then Daniel had freed his other hand. The guards rushed forward, but the ship lurched suddenly as another part of the diagnostic test engaged. They stumbled, giving Daniel precious seconds to release his ankle restraints. He rolled off the platform as the first guard reached him. Daniel ducked under the alien's grasping claws and drove his shoulder into its midsection. The Kazari was heavier than a human, but Daniel's momentum knocked it back into the second guard. The doctor was calling for help on a communication device. Daniel grabbed a canister from a nearby shelf and hurled it at the alien's head. It struck with a satisfying crack, and the doctor collapsed. Daniel quickly stripped one of the guards of its weapons, a shock baton, and something that looked like a pistol. He found the door controls and sealed the lab, buying himself time. "Cell block E17, he muttered, trying to remember the route they had taken. He needed to find Olivia Grant. The corridors were in chaos. The diagnostic had apparently triggered more problems than planned. Kazari crew members rushed past him, too focused on their tasks to notice one human. Daniel moved with purpose, as if he longed. The key to escaping was not to look like you were escaping. He found a computer terminal and touched the screen. Alien symbols flashed before him. He recognized some from his time in captivity. After several attempts, he located what appeared to be a ship map. E17 was 2 levels down. Alarms began to sound. His escape had been discovered. Daniel picked up his pace, no longer concerned with appearing normal. He ran down corridors, ducking into alcoves when groups of guards passed. The ship's massive size worked in his favor, creating confusion about his location. He reached a transport tube and descended to the lower level. The cell block entrances were guarded, but the diagnostic had left one door partially open, its security system blinking in reset mode. Daniel slipped through the gap. The cells in E17 were arranged in a circle. He ran past each one, looking for Olivia. Other human prisoners called out as he passed, begging for release. He promised to return for them. "Daniel." Olivia's voice called from the end of the corridor. He found her cell and examined the lock. It was similar to the one on his old cell. He took aim with the alien pistol and fired. The lock melted and the door slid open. Olivia rushed out. "You actually did it," she said with wide eyes. "Not finished yet," Daniel replied, handing her the shock baton. "We need to free the others and find a way off this ship." Olivia nodded. "There's a data core in the central control room. It contains the fleet coordinates and attack plans. We need to steal it." "Can you get us there?" Daniel asked. "Yes, and I know where the escape vessels are kept." Together, they moved down the corridor, freeing other prisoners. Soon they had a group of 7 humans, all determined to escape. "Split into 2 groups," Daniel ordered. "Olivia and I will go for the data core. The rest of you head for the hangar bay and secure a ship." A deep rumble shook the warship. The diagnostic was ending. Systems would soon be back to normal. "We don't have much time," Daniel said. Let's move. The humans dispersed, their first taste of freedom giving them strength and purpose. The hunt was on. Daniel and Olivia moved carefully through the warship's corridors. The alarm systems blared continuously now, and announcements in the Khazari language echoed throughout the vessel. "They know we've escaped," Olivia whispered as they pressed against a wall, letting a squad of armed guards rush past. "Which way to the control room?" Daniel asked, checking the alien weapon he had stolen. It had enough charge for a few more shots. 2 levels up, central section. Olivia pointed to a maintenance shaft. "We can use these service tunnels to avoid the main corridors." They climbed through narrow passages designed for the ship's smaller maintenance drones. The tunnels were hot and filled with humming machinery. Twice they had to freeze in place as Khazari technicians passed below them through grates in the floor. After 20 minutes of careful movement, they reached a panel that Olivia said would open near the control room. "Ready?" Daniel asked. Olivia nodded. "The room will have at least 3 officers inside. The data core is a crystal cylinder about the size of your hand, kept in a central console." Daniel kicked the panel open and rolled into the corridor. It was empty for the moment, but voices approached from around the corner. They sprinted to the control room door and flattened themselves against the wall beside it. When the door slid open as a Khazari officer exited, Daniel shoved the alien back inside. Olivia followed, wielding her shock baton. The surprise gave them an advantage. Daniel fired his weapon at one officer while Olivia struck another with her baton. The third officer managed to sound an alert before Daniel tackled it to the ground. "Hurry," he shouted to Olivia. "Get the core." She rushed to the central console and began working the controls. Daniel secured the door by melting the lock mechanism with his weapon. "Got it." Olivia held up a glowing blue cylinder. "The fleet coordinates, attack plans, everything we need." A pounding began on the door. They had minutes at most. "Is there another way out?" Daniel asked. Olivia pointed to a secondary door. "Emergency exit. Leads to the officers' quarters." They slipped through just as the main door burst open. Running through the private quarters of Khazari officers, they avoided contact where possible and fought when necessary. Daniel's weapon ran out of charge, forcing him to rely on hand-to-hand combat. The Khazari were stronger, but Daniel was quicker and more agile. They reached a transport tube that would take them to the hangar bay. Inside, Olivia examined the data core. "Daniel, this is worse than we thought. They have 7 warships positioned near Taw City. The attack on our colonies is scheduled to begin in 3 days." The transport tube doors opened to chaos. The hangar bay was on lockdown, with guards everywhere. Through the massive bay doors, they could see the other prisoners engaged in a firefight, trying to secure a scout ship. "We need to help them," Daniel said. They worked their way along the edge of the hangar, using cargo containers as cover. When they were close enough, Daniel signaled to the other humans. A man named Frank saw them and provided covering fire while they sprinted toward the scout ship. 2 humans had already fallen. The remaining 3 fought desperately. Daniel and Olivia joined them at the ship's entrance ramp. "Get inside," Daniel ordered. "Start the engines." Frank and another prisoner, Alan, entered the ship while Daniel, Olivia, and the third prisoner, a woman named Karen, held off the advancing guards. "It's working," Alan called from inside. "But the bay doors are sealed." Daniel looked at Olivia. "Can you pilot this thing?" She nodded. "Take the core. Get to Earth. Warn them." He handed her the data core. "What about you?" "I'll open the bay doors manually." He pointed to the control station across the hangar. "That's suicide, Daniel," she protested. "Someone has to do it. The information you have is more important than any of us." Before she could argue further, a new wave of guards burst into the hangar. Karen was hit and fell to the ground. "Go." Daniel pushed Olivia into the ship. "Promise me you'll make them pay for what they did to us." Tears in her eyes, Olivia nodded. "I promise." Daniel turned and ran toward the control station, as the scout ship's engines roared to life behind him. Daniel ran across the hangar bay, dodging weapons fire from all directions. The Khazari guards focused most of their attention on the scout ship where Olivia and the others prepared for launch. This gave Daniel a slim chance to reach the door controls. He slid behind a stack of supply crates as energy blasts scorched the metal floor around him. His lungs burned and his muscles ached from months of captivity, but the thought of Earth in danger pushed him forward. At the control panel, Daniel found the emergency release for the bay doors. It required a Khazari authorization code. He smashed the panel open with his fist and began crossing wires, something he had learned during his military days. Behind him, the scout ship hovered a few feet off the deck, its weapons firing at the guards. Olivia had managed to activate its defense systems. The ship was small but powerful, designed for reconnaissance missions. A voice boomed across the hangar. Commander Zek Skrull had arrived. "Human," the commander called. "You cannot escape the dominance. Surrender now, and your death will be painless." Daniel ignored the threat and continued working on the wires. Just 2 more connections. A blast hit the wall beside his head. Daniel ducked and rolled to another position, still clutching the wires. A squad of guards advanced toward him, led by Zek Skrull himself. The final connection sparked in Daniel's hands. The massive bay doors began to slide open, revealing the blackness of space beyond. Emergency force fields activated to maintain atmosphere within the hangar. "Now," Daniel shouted into his stolen communicator, "go, get that data to Earth." The scout ship spun in place and rocketed toward the opening. Zek Skrull roared in anger and fired his weapon at the fleeing vessel. The shots bounced off its shields. Daniel watched as the ship carrying Olivia and the data core passed through the force field and disappeared into space. He allowed himself a small smile before turning to face the approaching guards. "You have doomed yourself for nothing," Zek Skrull said. "We will catch their ship before they reach any human outpost." "I don't think so," Daniel replied. "That scout model is faster than your war vessels. By the time you organize a pursuit, they'll be long gone." Zek Skrull struck Daniel across the face, sending him sprawling to the floor. Guards surrounded him, weapons ready. "Take him to the bridge," Zek Skrull ordered. "High Admiral Vornful will want to question this one personally." They dragged Daniel through the ship to the command bridge. The bridge was massive, with view screens showing the space around the warship. Daniel saw other Khazari vessels nearby. The fleet was indeed gathering. An imposing Khazari in ornate armor stood at the center of the bridge. High Admiral Vornful was larger than the others, with battle scars visible on his exoskeleton. "So this is the troublesome human," Vornful said, studying Daniel. "The one who resisted interrogation, and now has cost us a scout ship and several prisoners. He helped the others steal a data core, Admiral," Zek Skrull reported. "They have our fleet coordinates and battle plans." Vornful's compound eyes shifted colors in what Daniel guessed was anger. "Find that scout ship. Deploy all available vessels if necessary." "It's too late," Daniel said, straightening despite his injuries. "By now, they're already broadcasting your plans to every human outpost and ship in this sector." The Admiral moved closer to Daniel. "You think your escape changes anything? We have studied your species for years. Your weapons are primitive. Your ships are slow. Even with warning, humanity cannot stand against the Khazari Empire." Daniel remembered what Olivia had told him about the Khazari weakness to certain sound frequencies. If she reached Earth with that information, the aliens would be in for a surprise. "You've made one critical mistake," Daniel said. "You think you know humans, but you've only studied us in cages. You have no idea what we're capable of when we fight for our survival." Vornful made a sound that might have been laughter. "Your bravery is notable but misplaced. You will live long enough to witness the beginning of your species' extinction." Daniel said nothing more. He had done what he came to do. Olivia was free with the data core. Now he just needed to stay alive long enough to find another opportunity. Because Daniel Pierce was far from finished with the Khazari fleet. 3 days passed with Daniel kept in a special cell on the bridge. The Khazari wanted him to witness their victory over humanity. He was given minimal food and water, just enough to keep him alive and alert. From his position, Daniel learned much about the fleet's movements. 5 of the 7 warships had gathered, with 2 still en route. High Admiral Vornthal grew increasingly angry as reports came in of the missing scout ship. They had not intercepted Olivia's vessel. On the 3rd day, alarms blared across the bridge. A Khazari officer rushed to Vornthal. "Admiral, we have detected multiple human vessels approaching from Sector 9. Vornthal moved to the main view screen. "Show me." The screen displayed a formation of 20 human ships. They were smaller than the Khazari warships, but moved with purpose. Daniel recognized the design. They were Earth Defense Force vessels, likely dispatched from the Europa outpost. "They found us faster than expected," Zexkrull said. "It changes nothing," Vornthal replied. "Begin attack formation. We will crush them quickly and proceed with our plans." Daniel watched in silence, hope building in his chest. The humans knew they were coming. Olivia had made it. The Khazari fleet arranged itself in an attack pattern. Orders were given, weapons powered up. The human ships continued their approach, seemingly unconcerned by the overwhelming force before them. "Something is wrong," Zexkrull said, studying the tactical display. "They should be more cautious. They are outgunned 5-1. They are desperate." Vornthal dismissed the concern. "Open fire when they enter range." The massive guns of the Dominants charged. Other Khazari ships did the same. The human vessels were minutes from weapon range. Daniel smiled. The Khazari didn't understand. The humans weren't being reckless. They had a plan. The first contact between the fleets was not what anyone expected. Instead of opening fire, the human ships broadcast something across all frequencies. The sound was barely audible to Daniel's ears, but the effect on the Khazari was immediate and dramatic. The bridge crew collapsed, writhing in pain. Vornthal stumbled, his limbs twitching uncontrollably. Zexkrull fell to his knees, mandibles clicking wildly. "What is this?" The Admiral struggled to speak. Daniel's smile widened. 172 to 175 hertz. Disrupts your nervous system. Like I said, you have no idea what humans are capable of. With the bridge crew incapacitated, Daniel broke free from his restraints. They had been loosened over days of careful work when no one was watching. He moved quickly to the nearest weapons station. The human fleet engaged, firing precision shots at the now vulnerable Khazari ships. Their weapons targeted engines and weapons systems, disabling rather than destroying. Daniel realized they wanted to capture the alien technology. He found the internal communication system and broadcast his voice throughout the Dominants. "This is Captain Daniel Pierce to all human prisoners. The Earth Defense Force is here. Make your way to the escape pods if you can. Help is coming." Across the ship, the remaining human captives who hadn't escaped with Olivia seized their chance. The Khazari, weakened by the sonic attack, could not stop them. Daniel located the ship's security controls and opened all cell doors. Then he found the docking controls and created an opening for the human vessels to board. The first EDF soldiers entered the bridge 20 minutes later. They found Daniel sitting in the Admiral's command chair, surrounded by incapacitated Khazari. Captain Pierce, a woman in an EDF uniform, approached. "Commander Lisa Rowe, Dr. Grant told us we might find you here." "Olivia made it then," Daniel said, relief washing over him. "Yes, sir. Her information was invaluable. We developed these sonic weapons based on her findings." Commander Rowe handed Daniel a pistol. "This emits the frequency that affects their nervous system." Daniel took the weapon, feeling its weight in his hand. "The other ships, all disabled. We're boarding them now. The Khazari fleet is effectively neutralized." Daniel looked at the tactical display. 5 Khazari warships, now under human control. But there were still 2 more out there. "We're not finished," he said. 2 more warships are coming. And their homeworld will send others once they learn what happened. Commander Rowe nodded. That's why we need your help, Captain. Dr. Grant said you know this ship better than anyone. We need to understand how it works before the others arrive. Daniel stood up, new purpose filling him. His escape had been just the beginning. Now the real fight would start. Let's get to work, he said. The humans worked quickly to understand the Kazari technology. Daniel led a team through the dominance, showing them what he had learned during his captivity. His knowledge proved invaluable as they prepared for the arrival of the 2 remaining warships. The Sovereign is their command ship, Daniel explained to Commander Rowe as they stood on the Dominance's bridge. It's twice the size of this vessel and carries their most elite warriors. They had placed the captured Kazari, including High Admiral Vornthal, in secured areas of the ship. The sonic weapons kept them weak and unable to resist. Our sensors show they will arrive in 6 hours, Rowe said, studying the tactical display. We've set up the sonic broadcast on all 5 captured ships, but we need more. Daniel pointed to the weapon systems. These energy cannons can be modified to carry the sonic frequency. It would be more focused, more powerful. Engineers worked to implement Daniel's suggestion. The human fleet positioned the captured Kazari ships in an ambush formation, hiding them behind a small moon in the system. As they prepared, Olivia arrived on the Dominance. Daniel was inspecting the engine room when she found him. I thought you were dead, she said, emotion clear in her voice. Daniel smiled. Takes more than a ship full of angry aliens to kill me. They embraced briefly, both aware of the limited time before the next battle. I have something for you, Olivia said, handing him a device. We found it in their research labs. It's a personal sonic projector. Should protect you if you get into close combat. Daniel attached it to his belt. Just in time. I have a score to settle with Commander Zekskroll. The hours passed quickly. Final preparations were made. The human ships hid with the captured Kazari vessels. Then the waiting began. The Sovereign appeared first, a massive warship that dwarfed even the Dominance. The second ship, the Retribution, followed close behind. They approached cautiously, clearly aware that something had gone wrong with the rest of their fleet. They're scanning the area, Rowe reported. They've detected the human ships, but not the Kazari vessels yet. Daniel watched the screen intently. Wait until they're fully committed. We need to catch both ships in our trap. The Sovereign broadcast a message in the Kazari language. Daniel had learned enough to understand they were demanding a situation report. Now, he said, before they realize what's happening. The human fleet and the captured Kazari ships emerged from hiding, surrounding the 2 new arrivals. The sonic weapons activated immediately, broadcasting at full power. The effect was visible even through the view screens. The Sovereign's movements became erratic as its crew suffered from the debilitating sound. All ships, open fire on their weapon systems and engines, Rowe ordered. The battle was fierce but one-sided. The Sovereign and Retribution, their crews incapacitated by the sonic attack, could not defend themselves effectively. Their shields failed under the combined firepower of the human fleet and the captured Kazari vessels. As the battle raged, a transmission came through from the Sovereign. The face of Commander Zekskroll appeared on screen. You, he hissed when he saw Daniel. This is your doing. Consider it payment for what you did to me and my fellow humans, Daniel replied. You think this is victory. Our empire spans hundreds of systems. This is merely one small fleet. Daniel leaned forward. Then we'll just have to take our new ships and pay your empire a visit. The transmission cut off as the Sovereign took a direct hit to its bridge section. The massive ship began to list to one side, fires visible along its hull. Their engines are going critical, a technician reported. The Sovereign is about to explode. All ships, pull back, Rowe ordered. The human fleet retreated to a safe distance. The Sovereign's engines detonated in a blinding flash. The explosion caught the Retribution as well, crippling it beyond repair. Daniel watched the destruction with mixed emotions. Many of his fellow prisoners had died during their captivity. Others had been rescued but would bear the scars of their ordeal forever. The Khazari had much to answer for. "It's over," Olivia said quietly, standing beside him. Daniel shook his head. "No, it's just beginning." On the tactical display, the remains of the Khazari fleet drifted lifelessly. 7 warships, now destroyed or captured by the humans they had planned to conquer. "What now?" Ro asked. Daniel turned to her. "Now we prepare. The Khazari will send more ships when they learn what happened here. We need to be ready." 3 months after the battle, Daniel stood at a large window on the Europa Defense Station. Below him, the icy moon's surface gleamed in the distant sunlight, but his attention was fixed on the shipyards in orbit. 5 former Khazari warships were being retrofitted with human technology. Engineers had learned quickly how to operate and improve the alien vessels. "Quite a view, isn't it?" Olivia joined him at the window. She had been appointed chief scientist for the new Human Khazari Technology Integration Program. "Never thought I'd see our flags on those ships," Daniel replied. Since their victory, Earth had strengthened its defenses. The knowledge gained from the captured Khazari, including star maps and weapons technology, gave humanity an advantage they never had before. Every colony was now protected by sonic defense systems. "The Council wants to see you," Olivia said. "They've reached a decision about your proposal." Daniel nodded. Together, they walked through the station to the command center. The Earth Defense Council, formed after the Khazari threat became known, had been debating Daniel's plan for weeks. Commander Rowe met them at the entrance. "They're ready for you, Captain Pierce." Inside, 5 council members sat at a curved table. Admiral Joseph Carter, head of the council, spoke first. "Captain Pierce, we've reviewed your proposal to take the fight to the Khazari. After much consideration, we've approved the mission." Daniel felt a wave of satisfaction. Since his escape, his focus had been on preventing future attacks on human worlds. "You'll command our first strike force," Admiral Carter continued. 5 ships, including the Dominance, which we've renamed the Vengeance. Your primary objective is to establish a forward base in Khazari territory and gather intelligence on their homeworld. "Thank you, sir," Daniel said. "When do we leave?" 2 weeks. We're still fitting the ships with our sonic weapons and training crews." After the meeting, Daniel returned to his quarters. On his desk sat a small memorial, pictures of the prisoners who hadn't survived. He had made it his mission to remember them all. A knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. It was Frank, one of the prisoners who had escaped with Olivia. "Heard the news," Frank said. "They're giving you command of the strike force." "They are," Daniel confirmed. "I want you as my first officer on the Vengeance, if you're willing." Frank smiled. "Wouldn't miss it for anything." The crew is already calling it Pierce's Revenge Tour. Daniel laughed for the first time in months. "Let's hope we live up to the name." The next 2 weeks passed quickly. Final preparations were made, crews assigned, and supplies loaded. On the day of departure, a ceremony was held in the main hangar bay. All the former prisoners who were fit for duty had volunteered for the mission. Admiral Carter presented Daniel with a formal commission as fleet captain. "The first of its kind in our history," he explained. "You'll be in charge of all 5 ships in the strike force." As Daniel stood on the bridge of the Vengeance for the first time as its captain, he thought about how far he had come. From prisoner to fleet commander. From victim to victor. "All ships report ready, Captain," Olivia said from her science station. "Navigation set for Khazari border system," Frank added. Daniel took a deep breath and sat in the command chair. "Send a message to Earth Command. Operation Vengeance is underway." The 5 ships moved away from the station in perfect formation. Their hulls still bore some Khazari markings, but now they flew under human control. They accelerated and disappeared into the darkness of space, heading toward enemy territory. On the Vengeance's bridge, Daniel felt a sense of closure. His escape from that prison cell had been just the beginning. The Khazari had thought humans were weak. They had learned otherwise. Now it was time to make sure they never threatened Earth again. As the ships entered faster than light travel, Daniel looked at his crew, humans working confidently at stations designed for alien hands. They had adapted, they had overcome, and soon the entire Khazari Empire would understand what that meant. The vengeance of humanity was just beginning.